Hey guys, Desolate Magic, and it's time for yet another MTG Mistakes video. Now, this one's very interesting in that I would say 99% of players do this incorrectly, and you can give yourself a pretty significant advantage. I mean, all these videos give you a very slight advantage. People are saying, oh, it's so slight it's not even worth it. Well, if you add them all together, your odds of winning probably just went up 10% just with the videos I made already, if not higher. So they're definitely worth it, but if some of these seem like too much work and you're just like, oh, I don't want to put in that much effort, I don't want to treat every single game like, some big national tournament, then that's fine, But some of them are super easy to do, and this is definitely one of them. Okay, here's how this one goes. So you sit down next to your opponent and you guess a number, roll some dice, or have a breakdancing competition, or maybe an Olympic ribbon routine. I've seen a lot of that lately. Whatever you did to determine who gets to choose who goes first, okay, then the person does choose who goes first. So let's say I roll an 11, the other person rolls a 7, great, I win. Now, some people think if you win, you're going first. No, if you win, you choose if you go first, but most people know that. The person who wins has to determine who's going first before they see their cards. If they do see their cards, they're automatically going first. I'm not sure if 100% of that is like the official tournament rules or if that's just like what a judge would make you do if you made that mistake or whatever, but either way, that's how we play it at the F&M level. So I say I'm going first, then we both draw 7 cards. Now, usually the first person to just read all 7 of their cards, count the number of lands, and then turn them all, right side up so that they're actually facing the correct direction. If they shuffle like I do, that person will be like, oh, okay, I'm good. Are you mulliganing? Or the other person will be like, oh, hey, 0 lands, goodbye. Like, literally within 2 seconds, they look at them, 0 lands, slap them on top of their deck, goodbye. That's cool, that's fine. I play pretty loose and casual, even at F&M, even at, like, pre-releases and stuff. But if I really want to beat the person, like if it's, the first round or it's the second round and I won the first round, if I actually give a crap how the game is going, the person who's going first has to announce if they're mulliganing first. So if you're going second, you can make your opponent say if they're mulliganing first. So if you don't want to say, or, way more likely, if you want to base your mulligan on the fact that they're mulliganing or they're not mulliganing, then you can tell them, hey, you're going first, you have to announce it first. And half the time they'll be on the fence and they'll be forced to make probably the wrong decision, honestly. I don't know, that I suppose it depends on their skill level or it's just random chance, who knows. I don't know, I'm not sure what I would do in that circumstance. I think the overall consensus is if you are on the fence about mulliganing and then your opponent mulligans, you're thinking, okay, we can both start with 6, so you're much more likely to mulligan. So I guess they're more likely to keep really crappy cards if you make them go first and don't tell them that you are mulliganing, or really if you don't tell them that you aren't either. Now, there is one little catch. I couldn't find this no matter how much I searched because, honestly, the rulebook is so obscure, the terminology sucks, and this has never really come up. I don't know if it's necessarily the person going first who has to say that they're mulliganing first, or if it's the person who, won the die roll that says they're going first. But I'm fairly certain it's the person who is actually going first. So if I got the high roll, and then I told them that they're going first and I'm going second, then I'm pretty sure they have to say if they're mulliganing first. I'm fairly certain that's how that works. Anyway, so you might think, oh, well, okay, I might, force my opponent to trip up and keep really garbage cards, and then I just cruise through the game and just stomp them because they obviously don't know that if you're on the fence about mulliganing, you should almost definitely mulligan. If you're counting on that to give you an advantage, that's totally not it. It's a lot more to it than that. Let me give you an example. You're starting with 2 lands, which is enough, but a whole bunch of 4 costs, 3 and 4 costs, maybe a 5 cost, or you're holding your whole combo, but it's a 4 and a 5 cost, so you're not going to get to it for a while, but it's a good opening hand because, you're going to win the game with that combo. Or let's say you're holding Thing in the Ice, and you're actually holding 4 spells and then 2 lands. So that's actually a really crappy opening hand because it's just a defender and then some spells, maybe some scry and draw spells, so, you're okay. And then you've got enough lands. So you thought, well, I mean, that's interesting. It's a pretty good opening hand, but if he has 7 really good fast werewolves or vampires or something, I'm going to lose because all I will have on the field is a defender and there's nothing I can do about it. Or let's say you're playing a black kill deck and you happen to have a really good creature strong, high aggro opening hand with 3 lands and 4 tough creatures, but 0 removal, and then you find out that they're starting the game with 6 cards or less. That's a lot nicer. Now, depending upon how bad those creatures were and what type of deck you're playing against, because it all comes down to what type of deck you're playing against, if you know, so hopefully it's, the second or third game, or you just know what deck they're using, then you can say, hey, are they keeping the 7? How happy do they look about it? Although people like to fake that to be dicks. And if you know they're going to 6 because you're going second, then can what you're holding beat them when they're a card down? So if you have a super fast ideal, like God's gift to the amazing opening hand, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether they're mulliganing or not, you're probably still going to win. You'll feel better if they mulligan, but that's about it. If you have a sketchy hand and you're not really sure, like I said, like 4 spells, Thing in the Ice, and 2 lands, and you're like, yeah, this will go off eventually, but am I going to get killed in the meantime? Well, if they start one entire card down, way up their probability of getting mana screwed, and they might only have like one whole concept of their deck, I guess you could say, in their next opening hand, maybe the mull to 5, maybe the mull to 4, then I would say, no, I'm not going to mulligan this pretty bad slow hand. I'm going to keep it because they're going to be off to a slow start and they're going to be top decking a lot sooner, and it's going to take them a little bit longer, theoretically, to get their deck going. So I have more time to do what I'm doing. And honestly, with that exact scenario, if they weren't mulliganing, I would probably say, well, they're going first, I'm not, and all I've got is Thing in the Ice. I'm going to mulligan because I basically start the game with 7 cards anyway, because I start with 6 and then I draw during my upkeep since I'm going second. Now, of course, this entire tip doesn't work at all if you're going first, because then, you would say, hey, am I mulliganing or not? I have no idea if he's mulliganing, so I don't know. It's bad cards. I guess I have to throw them away because who knows what he's doing. Unless, of course, they just say, oh my god, 0 lands, and just start reshuffling before you can even announce it. I wouldn't even tell them. I mean, there's, I don't know, probably not a rule against them announcing that early, I guess. I mean, why would it be against the rules? But it's not good play, and you might want to remind them of that later. So you might be able to get some information out of them early if you're the one who has to decide first. And you might be able to get some very valuable information about it by making them say it first if they're going first. So it's sort of a double-edged sword, although the first one's a little bit shady. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't jump up and say, oh, I was supposed to announce if I'm mulliganing first. That is improper procedure, because then you just seem like, you're not, like playing for fun or whatever. You're being like way too like tournament-oriented or whatever. I mean, even though people really should learn the rules, because like I said, this gives you a huge advantage. Potentially. Now, there is a general mulliganing tip that I have to throw in with this, because this plays a big role because it gives you like a little tiny bit extra. If it's a complete and utter mirror match, like you're both playing practically the same deck, you're both playing blue-white spirits, whatever. So you're going second, so you're already at a massive, massive disadvantage in a mirror match. That's like the worst thing ever, is going second in a mirror match. And now you've got, 3 1-cost spirits, a couple 2-cost, and then you got the Spell Queller, and then you have 1 land. So all your cheap stuff is in your hand, but it's 1 land. I mean, come on, what are you going to do with 1 land? Okay, so they say, oh, are you mulliganing? And you say, oh, well, you're going first, so you have to say it first. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll mulligan. They're more likely to get as land screwed as you are. Not much more likely, not more likely than you looking at your cards and seeing 1 land out of the 7 cards you drew, but in general, they are much more likely to be land short. Or they'll accidentally start with like 4 lands in a 6-card opening hand and just be like, okay, whatever, because they probably mulligan because they had like 0 lands. So you potentially could get stalled out for a turn or 2 while you try to draw a land, but so will they maybe, or they'll be land heavy and then just be really slow on creatures, which obviously you will be too, because you're not going to be summoning 2 spirits on turn 2. Or are you? For almost all decks, just assume that 1 in 3 cards are lands. So that means for every land you want to draw, it will take about 3 cards. That is the magic rule of 3 that I really hope you should know by now. So then there's the golden question. I always teach new players this. When they're saying, hey, should I mulligan or should I not? I even tell them, if they're on the fence, I say, what are the odds that you're going to draw your way out of this, like the actual mathematical odds that you will fix this, and how many turns or draws do you have to fix it? Now, let's say you've got 40 creatures and 20 lands, and you want to maybe keep a 5-land hand or a 6-land hand, we'll say. I've had people say, oh man, 6 lands and 1 creature. Oh, I'm ditching it. Oh, that's terrible. I can't start with 6 lands. Wow, what bad luck. oh my god, are you stupid or something? Especially if they're going second. Like, I'm going first, they're going second. So there's a free card. There's card number 8 coming to them already. There are 14 lands out of 53 cards left in their deck. That's closer to 1 in 4. So for every 4 cards they draw, 3 of them would be expected to be creatures, give or take. So they're practically guaranteed to, like, start their first turn with a second creature in their hand, and then they're almost guaranteed to pull a third creature, and then they could just keep cruising. I mean, even if the 4th card, or the 3rd card, or whatever we're on by now, is a land, that's fine, because the vast majority of the rest are creatures. Now, if you're like, oh my god, I need a board wipe to beat this person, and I'm not starting with a board wipe, and there's only 8 total board wipes out of 53 remaining in my deck, what are the odds I'll pull one on time? Pretty damn terrible. Specifically, 15% terrible. You're not going to fix that, you better mulligan. So for lands, it's easy. You don't even have to think, oh my god, what did I even put into this stupid deck? I totally don't remember and haven't played with it forever. Well, you probably put in 21 or 22 lands, which is about 1 in 3, give or take. So in that example where I've got 6 spirits, 1 land, if they're all set, I'm probably going to dump it because that's such a disadvantage. If they're going first and they say they're mulliganing, I'll think, you know what? I actually am going to keep this, specifically because they're mulliganing. Now, the logic behind this is they start with 6, maybe 5, maybe 4, maybe they just forfeit and flip the table, who knows? Actually, if you mull to 2, you have to flip the table, that's actually a rule. Anyway, suddenly my deck got better. It looks better, and it has a higher chance of winning just because of the mulliganing, and you cannot discount that. So I'm going to start the game with 1 extra card, and I probably have about a 1 in 3 chance of pulling the land, because let's see, let's say I put 21 lands in there. There are 20 lands left in the deck, and there's 53 cards left in the deck. So you actually have a 37% chance of pulling a land, but we'll just say 1 in 3, because 1 in 3 is a lot easier to remember. So pull number 1 is a whiff. You start your turn, play the land, play a spirit. Now you pass. They do whatever they're going to do, drop their second land, maybe bring out 1 spirit, 2 spirits, a 2-cost spirit, who knows, whatever. Then you draw another card. That's card number 2, so you might whiff on it, you might pull a land, you might have pulled a land the first time, who knows. Now, most of you know how probability works, but if you don't, I won't say, oh, you pulled 2 creatures, you're overdue for a land. I mean, there is literally 2 less cards in the deck, but past results don't influence future results. Take a time machine and go back to the very start of the game, and in your first 3 pulls, in general, one of them is probably going to be a land. So even if you whiff on the second one, you can bring out another 1-cost spirit, and then, let's say you whiff on the third one even. Well, now you bring out your third 1-cost spirit, now you're into your 4th card. If you didn't pull a land, that is just some mighty unfortunate luck right there. But you still have 3 creatures on the field, and that might be more than them, because maybe they're just getting land flooded, or maybe they're completely land screwed just like you. Except they started a card down, and you didn't. Now, you guys hopefully understand that I'm not saying that every single time your opponent goes first and decides to mulligan that you should keep a 1-land hand. The rule of 1 in 3 says you should not do that. But if you're holding all 1-cost and 2-cost, you could probably get away with it. Because you get the first draw right basically when you start your first turn, so before you even do anything, really. And then you get another draw, and then it wouldn't be the end of the world if you have to wait until your 3rd draw to get the land. Now, I can honestly say that Wizards of the Coast completely agrees with every single word I've said in this video because of the scrying rule. The, what do they call that? It's like a Canadian mulligan, or I don't remember what the hell it is. Well, whatever. If you mull to 6, you get to scry 1, because then it's equivalent to, like, 1 extra shot at what you need. It was basically an anti-land screw thing, but it was also kind of to promote combos. So that throws it off because now they get an extra bonus shot as if the 7th card was even in their hand. So if they're just trying to do something and not stall their deck out, the scry is almost as good as just having the card. And the same applies to you, so this video isn't, you know, the most helpful. It was a lot before that rule came out. But still, just remember, you know, force people to go in order if you're really, really concerned with a tight match. And like you've probably noticed, a lot of these tips are just don't give your opponent any information that they don't need to know, and don't fail to get information from your opponent when you do need to know it. In fact, mini bonus tip at the end for ya. Whether you won or lost the game doesn't matter. If the game ended and they have a face-down creature, probably a morph, they have to, legally have to, this is a rule, They have to show you what that card is before shuffling. And people love it when I remind them of that, because if they never flipped it up and it's like a really good ambush like Stratus Dancer or something, they don't want me to know that. They go out of their way to shuffle it in such a way that they don't have to flip it up, and I tell them, don't touch that one. You do have to actually tell me what that card is. And that little tiny tidbit of information, if they're running a 4x10 deck, you just learned 1/10 additional of the cards in their deck. That little bit of information is really important, because now when you see a face down card, which there's probably only 1 or 2 of in the entire deck, you now know what it is. That's actually huge. So you're thinking, oh crap, that's probably a Megamorph flyer that's going to cancel a spell. I actually don't remember if it's Megamorph or not. I think it's regular morph. Either way, when it flips, it cancels an instant or sorcery, so next time you see a face down card, you'd think, there's probably about a 50-50 chance at least that that's what it is. And then maybe you throw out a decoy spell, or don't try to win the game with like a maxed out Crater's Claws or something. So information is key. The more you can find out about your opponent, their deck, the game, the board state, whether they're mulliganing or not, all that, do it. And hopefully that will come up in the future topics as well, with more specifics about information that you didn't even know you can gain from your opponent. Like, did you know you could break into their house at night and spy on their deck? Just kidding, don't do that. I am not telling you to do that, that's illegal. But for more tips that are actually legal and not felonies, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys next video.